Agbo Okunrakwo, one of the defensive ends that the Browns brought in the offseason, talked about that dominating defensive performance against the Bengals where they only allowed 3 points to that high-powered offense, and also about playing in Jim Schwartz's defensive scheme.
Honestly, it felt good, we just want to get back to practice and just keep stacking, get even better because we feel like we haven't scratched the surface.
How did you feel that energy shifting as the game went on?
Hey, we was just having fun, from beginning to the end. We never really thought about what they were doing over there. It's about us, so we were just doing us. It worked out exactly how Coach Schwartz said, so we listen to Coach Schwartz, and Coach Schwartz we trust. It's all about Jim Schwartz, He was dialing it up out there, He was calling just perfect plays for perfect situations, and we all believe in it, everything he calls. So we're having fun right now. We want to just keep having fun.
Let's welcome in Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Ashley, I know you wrote an article about that defense. Take us through that and what you saw watching that defense perform yesterday.
I think the biggest thing with this defense was seeing how they really were responsible for creating so much chaos on the field. And I talked to multiple players about this after the game, and it's like they could sense, Obo Okorankwo was the one who brought it up, that they could see that confusion from the Bengals in real time. And a big part of it is we saw what the Browns have been talking about all offseason and through training camp, and that is they have so many versatile guys, especially along their defensive front, that it's really easy to rotate guys around, and that's really what caused the confusion. Jim Schwartz rotated in 8 different D linemen yesterday. You had Dalvin Tomlinson lining up against tackles sometimes. You had Zadarius Smith on the inside, Myles Garrett on the inside, Myles and Obo lining up like linebackers, Myles practicing a crossover dribble when he's doing that to kind of torment the Cincinnati offense. And I think as the game went on, you saw that confusion amplify because they kept getting to Joe Burrow, and they got to him early. And yes, they only sacked him twice, but they had 10 quarterback hits, and 8 of those came from Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett. So I think this was also the perfect game to kind of show when the Browns talk about analytically sacks not always being the most important thing. This is like a prime example of why that is and how much even just hits or pressures can rattle a team or make them change their game plan.
Well, the other thing that was it was apparent early, the defensive players want to play in this system. And you heard, in Schwartz we trust, and whatever he calls, you need that from a defense.
Yeah, I think you definitely need that buy-in, and I use that quote in my story from Obo, the "In Schwartz We Trust." I asked Greg Newsome, of course, people remember last year, all of the defense issues, or most of the defense's issues last year stemmed from miscommunication. And I think what else was so impressive with all that movement and the moving parts this defense had yesterday, they weren't getting confused. Like, they seemed confident and comfortable in what they were doing. Like, you didn't notice them get any penalties for subbing in wrong or having too many guys on the field or like anything like that. You didn't notice those coverage breakdowns. Last year it was like a really common sight to, you'd see them bust a coverage or whatever, and then they'd be kind of standing in a circle pointing at each other. It was like that Spider-Man meme. I thought it was your guy. Oh, I thought it was your guy. Like, there was a lot of that. And Greg Newsome said, Jim Schwartz isn't going to stand for that. If we have that stuff in practice, he's going to call you out on it. So I think it just kind of shows overall that this team has really bought into what Jim Schwartz is selling. And I know it's funny that Jim Schwartz said on Thursday, like, he knows he's not everybody's cup of tea was the phrase he used. But I think he's this defense's cup of tea and the Browns' cup of tea for sure.
It certainly appears that way.